So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipality of Thames Centre Council meeting. It's Monday, July the 28th at 2025, and the time is 5 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. So we have no additions to the agenda that I'm aware of. So I'm wondering if I could have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as circulated. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest from the members of council? Councillor Heeman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I, Tom Heeman, hereby make a declaration of pecuniary interest or indirect interest with respect to agenda item number 11.8, item title CSF-006-25 on July 28, 2025. The reason for the declaration is the company I work for sells mead to Oxford Renaissance fairs.
That seems appropriate. Thank you. No others? Okay. So I do have one announcement tonight. For some time now, we've been working on revamping our municipal website. So that task is done, and that is going to go, am I right, Mr. Ramnanan, that it goes live tomorrow? Okay, so everyone will have an opportunity to check out the new website. I think there will probably be an announcement made with a link in it so that you can see for yourself, right? Okay, don't want to give anybody the wrong information here. Okay, thanks. So moving on then, the first delegation that we have here is to recognize some new Thames Centre fire recruits. So if I could call Chief Nick Dorkin up.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, I'm joined by District Deputy Chief Robert Koonsland from Station 2. Tonight, we're happy to present to you and to the rest of Council and our friends from the public as well. The newest, we actually have 11 names, our newest recruits in both Station 1, Station 2, Thames Centre Fire. So I will call them up momentarily, but I'd just like to recognize that some were hired this past January, January 2025, our Station 1 recruits, and then Station 2 recruits were actually hired last March when they got their start. However, we're signifying somewhat of an important date because both of those classes just finished their recruit training program at the Elgin Middlesex Fire School, Regional Fire School, in which they have a lot of online pre-course material to study. They're usually doing between 5 to 10 hours a week of homework. And then over 6 months, they put in almost 200 hours of practical training to reach their Ontario mandated provincial certification, in which we actually celebrated their recruit graduation just under a month ago in Malahide. So I'd really like to highlight the amount of energy and effort they put forth to serving our community. You can't say enough about the heart of a volunteer, and the 4 of the 11 recruits that we're honoring tonight certainly depict the big heart that we need as volunteer firefighters. So without further ado, I will present to you the 4 that are here this evening. We have Kurt Dankers. Come on, join us up, Kurt. Rick Vervoort, Shane Skelton, and Akeem Jackson. And these are, actually, I'll read the other names as well. So absent this evening are, yeah. Oh, you got to stand in front of the mayor. Yeah. There we are. So Akeem, Shane, Rick, and Kurt with us, representing both Station 1 and Station 2 tonight. Absent this evening are Connor Hannenberg, Garrett Hornick, Graham Brulot, Adam Grenard, Corey Stewart, Sean Burns, and Colin Pegg as well. So if you join me in welcoming them and celebrating them as TCFD firefighters.
So we're going to be moving on to item 6.2. Delegation by resident Jim Vince. If you'd like to come up and take your stand. And just a reminder, it's 10 minutes and we'll be timing it, and it gives an opportunity for questions and comments. The mic should be in the center there. Okay.
All right. I guess for you that don't know me, my name is Jim Vincent. I'm a resident of 236 Oakwood Place. I'm here to bring your attention to a bylaw number 79/2010. And I have copies here for anybody that hasn't read it or needs to see it. Does anybody would like one? So, one thing I'd like to read to you is I went to the University of the old computer this morning and read out the duties of a chief administrative officer. And a couple of things I'd like to highlight is that the chief administrative officer is responsible for managing and directing the daily operations of an organization. Part of that duty is the CAO was also ensure that the organization is compliant with applicable regulations and laws. That was the YouTube University this morning. Bylaw 79/2010. There's two things that I've highlighted. Number 11, and the part that I have highlighted, all other things required by this agreement or by the municipal engineer shall be carried out by the owner at its sole risk and expense to the satisfaction of the municipal engineer. Then if you go over to section 19, notwithstanding any of the provisions of this agreement, the owner shall be subject to all bylaws of the municipality. So this law states that when we built the addition in 2011 to the school here, it was supposed to be hooked up to the existing sewer system then. in that regards, if you're going to do something other than what the bylaw says, you have to have an amendment. So I have a letter here from the municipality regarding your document search. I wish to confirm that the staff is not aware of any amendments that were made to bylaw 79/2010. Having gone through this, I'd like to say to you people, I have a statement I want you to think about. When you take these jobs, you don't know what you don't know. So it's up to somebody else to keep you informed. And in this particular incident, I don't think that happened. So having said that, I'm losing my spot here. I think that for us on the Oakwood project, it was a difficult pill to swallow, the bill for this. This daycare isn't just a facility for the 57 here. It's a facility for the community. And as such, the community should be paying for this, not just the 57. So I would like you to look at this and like, I don't want to put anybody on the hot seat. That's not my intention. I don't do that. I don't backstab or anything like that. I'm just a straight shooter. I think we were wrong. And I think that in the future, this council and future councils need to take a look at what they're doing and what effect it has on, in particular, the seniors in this town. Because 70% of the people that are over here are seniors. And as such, we have no way to recoup this money. This comes directly out of our savings. It's what we plan for our future. Now for me, it's going to be gone. So that's one part of it. The other part is that we seem to be doing things kind of haphazardly. We do a little bit over here. Had we taken this down Hamilton Road to Dorchester Road, there are businesses right here that are crying to be connected to the sewer system. Queen Street was just done. One of the reasons why we were told we were done is because we were going right by, but you went right by Chittick as well. No studies were ever made of what was actually in the ground at our place. I do have pictures of the pipes and everything that came out of the ground. And I have a piece of the copper pipe that the guy, anyways, I'm going the wrong direction here. I have a solution. Why don't we as a community, when infrastructure goes in the ground, it belongs to everybody in the community, not just the people on our street, not just the people here. This school is going to be a benefit for everybody, and as such should be paid for by everybody. So I'd like to see or hear a motion that carrying forward, we no longer do it in the piecemeal manner, and we no longer bill it to just the frontage right here. Because there's going to be more building in Dorchester. There's a guy right here on Queen Street that's building a house. There's businesses right here that need the sewer. We need to be thinking 20 years down the road, not 2, not 3. We should never have stopped there. We should have kept going on right to the Dorchester Road. So in closing, I do want to say thank you for your efforts to all of you for what you're doing, but it has to get better. Communications, I know it was difficult, and maybe with the new system, it'll be better, but this project was a disaster right from the very beginning. So, okay. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much. If somebody would care to put a motion forward, for exactly what I said, I'd be really appreciative. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Are there any questions or comments from Councillor Locke? Maybe you can, in case it's in the form of a question.
Yeah, through your worship to Mr. Vincent, thank you so much for your presentation. I don't feel comfortable giving placing a motion right now, just getting this information now, but I think it's definitely worthy of giving it some serious consideration and discussing with staff.
Councillor Heeman.
I just want to make sure I'm getting the spirit correct, because I think there's a couple issues here. So just, I believe this bylaw 79 is the heart of it is that there's an agreement with respect to public entities paying for their share of the infrastructure. Is that correct? So this, it's Thames Valley District School Board, or
Oh, sorry. Yes, Thames Valley District School Board.
okay.
If you look at the back of the document, there's a page where they signed it. This is a bylaw. This is a contract. And this contract is still in effect today. It's never been repealed.
So I just checked quickly in terms of the cost paid on the whole project, and
Yep.
Thames Valley put in $500,000.
Yeah.
So I think the question is that reflective of their share of the costs?
I don't honestly know that because we've never gotten a breakdown of what the actual costs, what do you call it, itemized accounting as to what it cost, or
Yeah.
what it would have cost to go there as compared to what it costs to go there. We've never gotten any of that.
So you mean like the different project proposals in terms of their
Yeah,
cost breakdown?
in terms of what their cost would have been going there as compared to what it is going here.
Okay. Um, so that's part of it. And then I think the other part is how we identify projects and how we communicate those to the public, right? And I think the comment we've heard from Oakwood is that, you know, at least 5 or more households had just replaced their septic systems. Is that?
On my street, there are, I believe 12 houses. 10 of them have replaced their septic beds
So I think
before this project. And that's also another point that I'd like to make here too, is that I gave council a survey of that before you started in the ground. Like 10 of 12 houses already had this done. And if a road lasts 30 years, that's fine. You just did Queen Street. So those septic systems are, you know, they're 40 years old. So by the time we look at them again, they're going to be 70 years old. Well, ours is 50 years old and it was fine. And I have the pictures to prove it.
so. I think those are two of the main issues, if I'm correct, that you're concerned about. Was like how we are planning for projects and how we're communicating projects.
Well, yes, the communication was dreadful on this all the way through. I mean, we never actually, nobody ever come to our house. They were already digging on the ground before somebody came to our house. There was a guy out in front marking the tree at our boulevard to come down. And I go, what are you doing? Well, the town wants this tree knocked down. You don't own it. We do.
Yeah.
These are the things, communication has to be the paramount part of this. And for us, we've been fighting this for 2 years. We were never communicated with properly in 2 years. So I would like notifications to go out. You know, we got notification there was gonna be a meeting and it got postponed. And here we are. The project signs are already up. People have already been doing exploratory stuff on the roads before we really were notified of what was going on. So pretty hard pill to swallow.
If I may, I think when we talked about this, probably the last time you were here, I think the deputy mayor requested a report on industry best practice for how to go about these things in a better way. And I think, like, just from my own common sense, I think that, you know, we should have a line of sight on these projects that's longer than a year. You know, like that's longer than the budget cycle. And I know when we had the community meeting for King Street, there was someone who was saying, why aren't we putting pipes in the ground when we're tearing up the road? Which is kind of, in this case, we're not doing that because Thames Center's policy is to survey the residents, and there should be a majority of residents signed on. And I understand that
We were never surveyed.
did not go that way. And I believe there's the policies of the corporation, and then council can override those in certain situations. And I believe that's what happened in your case. And I think that that's something we are trying to learn from in terms of making sure that consultation does happen going forward. But if there's a way for us, we have done a systemic review of the aged infrastructure, so we should know what the priorities are moving forward. And I think Councillor Lockie has mentioned, or has had a motion in the last meeting about doing a comprehensive growth plan. In this sense, it's not necessarily growth, but it's about maintenance. And then there is a growth component to that as well, because in certain developments, you know, new infrastructure causes more infrastructure in existing areas. Do we have a way of identifying what those priorities are and then doing that consultation in a proactive manner? Because I think, you know, making that decision on your own infrastructure with the septic bed, like you'd want at least 2 to 3 years, if not 5, to make that choice.
Yes, and there were people over there that they had put in a septic bed just right before this project started. There was one over here, and then after the project started, there was one over here where the guy's septic bed had died.
Yeah.
So he was allowed to put in another septic bed. So like, we're fighting issues back and forth here.
So we have a wastewater master plan, which outlines where we believe that the future arteries are. And I think that it would be a good service. The problem is it's, like you said, councils come and go, right? And if we were to have a translation of that plan in terms of what are our sewer or our septic, our wastewater expansion plans are, and have a proactive consultation alongside that, then we can navigate those opportunities in different neighborhoods and whatnot in a, I think, a more proactive manner. And at least everyone would have that reassurance that this is the approach, and that, you know, if you're on a priority street, then maybe you want to try and do maintenance instead of replacement and things like that.
Might I ask, has anybody went down Hamilton Road to check with any of the people and businesses there to see what their needs are? Has that been done? And that might be, I might be out of line here. If I am, I'm sorry.
I'd have to defer to staff on that.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point, right? Is where are there's a lot of roads, and there's a lot of, like, we have a gravel conversion plan to convert gravel roads to paved roads.
Mhm.
Do we have a similar translation plan for our wastewater infrastructure or water infrastructure? And I think that is a concept that might address what you're talking about. If I'm
Yeah, I guess I could reiterate by just stating that my major concern is that the way we're doing infrastructure right now is we're just charging the frontage of the houses that are involved in that little piece. Where in the future, you're gonna hook up to that. Somebody along here is gonna hook into that. They should be, everybody, when it comes to infrastructure in the ground, if you go to the city of London, they don't just stop at that corner, that corner, or over there. The whole city is involved and pays for infrastructure. And I believe that's where we need to go. And I think the quicker we do it, the less heartache they're gonna put on the people here. There's gonna be people that don't like it, but there's gonna be a lot more people that are saying, finally, it makes sense. So. Anything else, folks?
if anyone else wants to speak, and then I got a final point.
Does anyone else want to ask questions or comment? Okay, Councillor Heeman, go ahead.
Okay, so I think the other point you wanted to make was about with respect to this bylaw is that so this bylaw is likely superseded by another bylaw in which I believe like schools and hospitals are exempt from infrastructure fees. Is that correct?
We'll refer to the clerk on this one.
Actually, that bylaw is superseded by the next site plan agreement, which says in clause number 1 of the site plan agreement for the last extension, says all clauses of the previously registered site plan are now null and void.
What's the date on that, please?
That's 2019. I just got it right here. It is, 2022. It was signed on May 25th, 2022.
So that really doesn't have any bearing to what happened in 2011 then.
No, but it supersedes the site plan, and that's,
There was never any amendment to that bylaw.
so there's not an actual need to amend that bylaw because the body of the bylaw is the agreement. It is that bylaw institutes that agreement, and that agreement was then registered.
Sorry, I don't understand.
So the bylaw just gave the body, the first part of the bylaw, the front page that the mayor and the clerk signed, gave them the right to sign that agreement. So that agreement is an attachment to the bylaw. And then the next, and it was at that point in time, staff did not have delegated authority to sign those agreements without council approval, which is why it went as a bylaw. But in 2022, council had delegated authority to staff to sign on behalf of them. So it did not have to, the new agreement did not come back in the form of a bylaw, but the new agreement says the previous one is now null and void. The previous agreement, which is where the clauses you're referring to are involved in. It's in the agreement, not the front page of the bylaw.
But that's after the fact.
So in 2022, it stopped being in existence. I
Okay.
understand what you're saying about 20
Again, you're stating something that's after the fact.
after the fact of,
You've already done
The
the
project.
project.
oh,
You've already,
sorry, yeah.
we've already been wronged as far as I'm concerned. And now you're saying that a bylaw that you passed after you did this all is what covers everybody. Well, my understanding is that any time that you want to change or a bylaw needs to be changed and it has to go through council before you can act on it. But this is still law. It's never been repealed.
So
Yeah.
it also, that 2010 bylaw does also have in the agreement a clause that states that, I don't want to get too argumentative, but that they have the right, the engineer, which is also defined as the CBO, has the right, it's the first one, where the municipal engineer used throughout this agreement shall mean the building inspector, the director of environmental services, they have the right to make all determinations. And when they issued that permit to build that agreement, they stated that it was not a septic system was able to be maintained based on reports given. It's actually in the permit. I sent you all this information on the link, and that's what is able to change that.
Well, you're right. We could sit and argue this back and forth all evening and it wouldn't accomplish anything except for to make people angry. I guess I've had my say. And again, I want to thank all of you for your service here for one thing. And please think about the two things that I said. The one, you don't know what you don't know, and that affects everything that you do. So, and the other thing is that the seniors over here are greatly affected by this. There's already been 3 families move out because of it. So we need to be more aware of what we are doing in our future planning. Like, are we, another subject. So anyways, thank you. Good night.
Well, thanks, Mr. Vince. But at this, oh, I'm sorry. Counselor Heeman, you have something else?
So I'd just like to put forward I guess, a motion with respect to the concern and about how we identify projects. And so if I could make a motion to request a staff report on a multi-year wastewater and water implementation and consultation plan. Like if we could get a framework of what that would look like, and then we can potentially discuss that at a future date.
Okay, Counselor Heeman has introduced a motion. Is there a seconder for this motion? No?
Do I count?
Yeah. No, you don't count, sorry.
Sorry, I just had a question to see if we can clarify this. Isn't that the intent of the wastewater study, is we're identifying future projects, right? That we know of in terms of servicing. I think everyone can agree this wasn't fully planned. It kind of came up by surprise, but isn't that the document that guides us?
Through your worship, projects that would affect property owners that, like Mr. Vincent here, are municipal extension projects, rather any water main or sanitary sewer replacement project, which the municipality can do a 5-year plan on because it's totally foreseen. There's no charge to existing ratepayers. It's only the municipal extension projects where there's no sanitary sewer previously there. That's when property owners are charged for. So we're at the mercy of development. If a development needs sanitary or water project going from A to B, those for example King Street, for example, Oakwood Drive rather, those going from A to B, those projects would be involved. We don't have a lot of foresight on those when it comes to the planning applications, etc. That 5-year study may be a little bit difficult for projects that would affect people that aren't currently on that service.
Counselor Lucky.
But I do support Counselor Heeman in that, I don't think we should be reactive. I think we should be more proactive in identifying, the properties that may potentially have to be put on wastewater. So it doesn't come as a shock right after people have put in a new system. So I would support Counselor Heeman's motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and we have a seconder. So I will call the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? Split vote. I'm going to vote against the motion. We're going to be receiving this report, and these kinds of things, Mr. Vincent, are open for discussion for council. We're going to be moving into another phase in the council year, and I think that might be the opportunity for us to speak about this particular item on your request.
Okay, in meantime, we're still at odds of paying for this.
Unfortunately, yes, you are. We have given, I know I've seen the numbers of who contributed and how much in terms of the businesses along here, including the municipality. We have also, council extended sort of a relief payment for those who are struggling with paying the charges. We've taken percentage reductions on those. We've also given lots of opportunity. This is something that I'm not trying to make excuses, but the council has inherited this project. This current council has anyway. And we have been doing our absolute best to try and reduce the pain that some of the residents are feeling. But we have a significant number of people who have already paid.
Yes.
Yeah, we have. So Jim, I'm sorry, but what we're going to do right now is I'm going to ask for an opportunity to accept this report through the I'm sorry, receive the report. Receive your delegation, sorry. But this is perhaps something that council can revisit down the road. I can't say that the situation will change, but I do recognize where you're coming from. I do recognize that there were some issues in communication and various other things to the residents, but we're kind of where we're at right now.
All right,
Okay? All right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. So a mover and a seconder to receive the report. Councillor Crockett and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? And none opposed, so that motion is carried. Okay, we would like to move on now to item 6.3. Mr. Alma Falani, am I pronouncing your name right? Sorry. Or just close enough. Okay, if you'd like to come up here, state your name for the record and your municipal address.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Khaled Al-Mafalani, and I live in London at 34 Ponderosa Crescent. And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm 23 years old. I came from Syria 2018. I came directly to London. I've been in London, happily living in London. It's good. And I've been cutting hair for 9 years. So I was looking for a smaller town. I found there is no barbershop services in towns. And so I came up with the mobile barbershop business concept. It's one of a kind. There's basically no one has done it in the area before. So I'm the first guy to start it. And I found out in Thorndale, there is no barbershop services. So I moved to Thorndale and I started looking for space and found out people, like when I post on social media about this project, this business, everybody was good with it. Everybody reacted with the post. Everybody liked the service, liked the idea. And so I moved, planning to move to Thorndale and then start operate over there. But unfortunately, because I'm the first guy, there's no bylaws and regarding mobile barbershop license and permits. So I'm here today to present my case and hoping you guys, councilors, pass the bylaws to allow me to operate and pay my taxes, pay everything, be on good terms with the legal side of it. And that should be it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Well, we're going to move on now to Councillor Heeman actually has a motion. Tom, would you like to introduce this and speak to it?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to make the motion that staff be directed to prepare a report on potential solutions to permit a temporary mobile business use. Optional in urban settlement boundary areas such as but not limited to a standalone bylaw and a temporary zoning bylaw amendment or a ZBL housekeeping amendment.
Okay. So we have Councillor Heeman's motion on the floor. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor Lockie? Any discussion? Councillor Crockett?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming in. As you stated in your presentation, yes, you're the first. So thank you for paving the road for others. With that, before entering into the vote of motion, I just want to make sure that the motion on the floor works with what staff's working on the back end, because I know that you've been working closely with them on allowing kind of mobile businesses to a sense to come forward in our community. I don't know if this would be directed to the clerk or Amanda in regards to whether Tom's proposal or a temporary use proposal.
I think Amanda can
Amanda, you
speak
look
to this.
geared up and ready to go.
Through you, your worship and members of council, thank you, Khaled, for your patience, all your hard work in proposing your business and kind of giving the community a process to think about what you're proposing before being there. And thanks to Maria at Thorndale Family Restaurant for being in communications with me as well. So I just want to bring to your attention that speaking from an economic development perspective, I appreciate the passion the proposal brings. And yes, you're the first, as Councillor Crockett mentioned. So it kind of gives a little bit of a unique review process for us to make sure we're doing the right thing to permit it and being aligned with council and the public. So under Section 39 of the Planning Act, council may pass a bylaw to authorize the temporary use of a land, buildings, or structures for any purpose set out therein that is otherwise prohibited in the zoning bylaw. A temporary use bylaw can be passed for a period of up to 3 years and renewable by council, and the temporary use must not be in conflict with broader OP policies. So when I'm speaking about temporary use zoning bylaw, I just kind of want to mention a few things. If staff work on that proposal, the amendment fee would be $1,200, and I would advise on an annual basis to ensure analysis, circulation, and transparency is at the forefront of council and staff's decision-making process. And I would also advise the property owner, business owner, and the municipality to enter into an agreement to address items such as distance from existing brick and mortar businesses, for example, a 100-meter buffer, security, parking, insurance. So staff will work with council and the business owner, the property owner, to ensure we're making our best decisions to permit the use going forward.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, just one moment, please. Are there any more questions from the members of council before we vote on this? No other questions or comments? Okay, then. So we have before us now then that the delegation by Mr. Almafalani be received for information and that staff be directed to prepare a report on on a potential solution to permit a temporary mobile business use optional in the urban settlement boundary areas, such as, but not limited to, a standalone bylaw, a temporary zoning bylaw amendment, or a zoning bylaw housekeeping amendment. It is moved and seconded, so all in favor? Okay, that carries. So we're working on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. So the next delegation is from Mr. Ross regarding the Thorndale Road design. And Mr. Ross, again, if you'd like to come up to the podium. Introduce yourself and your property address.
Thank you, Worship. I'm Bill Ross. I live at 21434 Cherry Hill Road. We're here. This is we're here tonight. We attended an information meeting put on by the county engineer and a contract engineer for the change and revitalization changes to the main street, King Street in Thorndale. In my capacity, this is a continuum of what we did over 20 years ago. We struck a committee of citizens and volunteers called the Thorndale Revitalization Committee. And in essence, what we tried to do was enhance the main street, bring sort of the rural culture back, bring some safety aspects to it, because we've got an inordinately bad problem with traffic volumes and speed, and it endangers all our citizens. And that problem has been exacerbated as volumes have gone up over the last number of years since we struck our committee. Now, the committee was a totally volunteer committee of citizens, and we worked with renowned landscape architect Ron Cowdies, who's a friend of mine, and I put that out there intentionally. And Ron worked pro bono, and I've sat with him on various committees, including being with him at the Boys and Girls Club and others, and always have respected his expertise and what he provided to us. And he provided a wonderful roadmap for us that allowed us to attack and improve some of the issues. And we had some great successes. First and foremost, we planted trees up and down the main street. For anybody that's toured the street, that was all part of what we did. We did 2 parkettes, one beside the hardware store. Unfortunately, some of them were ash trees, and we replaced them though a couple of years ago with trees from another property that I have. The second parkette we did was the reading garden at the library, which is today is used, and unfortunately my good buddy Ralph Stephen has passed, and Ralph put a lot of hard sweat and tears into that, and that was another positive aspect. We put decorative lighting in, and we did enhanced gardens, and so we were pleased about that. Where we failed is at the time the road was being torn up, and we felt it was an ideal time to maybe alter curb lines on the recommendations of Ron Cowdies for traffic mitigation, because this has all been proven both empirically and through data available, that using bump outs, using different elements to close in the street had a dramatic impact on slowing traffic down. We have a horrible problem with transport trucks and other people far exceeding the traffic limits. And so we have gone to the meeting. I've seen the proposal. There's some positive stuff in there. New sidewalks, I've gone through it. They say they're going to take out one of our trees, which bothers me, but I guess I can live with that. We put about 60 in, and I'll have to accept that. Now, the county engineer was there, and I'm being very candid. I dealt with him the last time around, and it wasn't the most constructive relationship that I've had over the years. And in fact, he basically denied us any alterations on the curb, which we felt were progressive, and many other people were doing it. They were rejected by him, despite the fact that the aforementioned Ron Cowdies is doing that type of work with Bayfield, Aylmer, Stratford, London, and very effectively. And I've gone to Aylmer and traveled these roads, and it has a significant impact on closing the street in and slowing our traffic down. And one of the areas that I would really highlight where we could effectively do these bump outs, if you would, and we've got drawings, I guess they're not a bit, they're in your package, and we've toured these towns, and we've seen how effective they are for ourselves. But one of the ones I would draw your attention to that we would be really advocating a significant bump out would be to the east of the daycare center. And unfortunately, Jana Monroe couldn't be here. Absolutely lovely lady. She took the old bank building, has built a lovely business with daycare. They're oversubscribed. They've got people on a waiting list from London to Woodstock. So it's a tremendous business success, but it's dangerous. And we're proposing that if we work with somebody, that we put a bump out to the east of them to protect the cars coming in, letting their kids off. I know the daycare. One of my grandchildren matriculated there. She graduated and she's doing her post daycare work at the public school. And it's unfortunate. Janet is just a wonderful example of what you can do when you enhance private business. And so this is one of our goals is to create a rural environment that we can do economic advancement. But first and foremost, we really have an opportunity, we believe here, since you're going to do this work anyways, to do something far more progressive than what's currently proposed. And that would include many of the items we talked about. Tree planting, which the county engineer actually said at that meeting he would encourage. So tree planting can be done to small trees. I can tell you that we can volunteer to raise some money to make them much larger so that we would have there's a lot we can do in the context of being far more progressive and far more enlightened. I need the council on side with this. And the recommendations that we're going to make is that clearly we want to see more trees. We really do want to see a proper look at the configuration. One of the things I've put in there, by the way, there's so many things you can do. I just got back from England. They make extensive use of roadside paint, and you can paint your crosswalks. You can paint your turning lanes. You can do it, and it works. It's very effective. You can put the speeds into the paints that they should be going. That in itself, but you add everything together and you change the look and the effectiveness of what you've got. So I proposed that you look at the trees, you look at the alteration of the curb lines. There's one item, and I know people they're going to either yawn or say it's a stretch too far. We've given you data on roundabouts. Now, I brought that up with the engineer and was summarily dismissed offhand by him that there isn't the room, and where there is room, we've got designation for other things. You don't have that, and he's not a planner. There is room there for a roundabout, and if you wanted to do something to really help the vulnerability of people on the roads, just take a serious look. I've traveled many times. You just simply move the roundabout a little bit east. There's land there, whether it can be bought, expropriated, whatever, but it is the single most important issue you can do. The data is overwhelming as to the effect of traffic slowing down, the reduction in fatalities. And as I talk to you about this, yes, we're Thorndale and it's there today. I know this council is many other areas besides Thorndale. But I'd like to feel that maybe we can be a model. Let's try this stuff. Let's get out of the box, please, and look at it. May not be everything works, but you can adopt certain things in other communities, in Middlesex, or certainly in Thames Center. So, and you'll be able to tell what works and what. There's no panacea, but we can do a lot of mitigation and we'd really like to enhance our Main Street. My final recommendation to you is to hire, I know if the county wants to do tenders by the fall, it doesn't make any, trust me, I'm in the industry, whether it's September or December, we don't do anything in the wintertime anyway, so it's not going to affect your timeline one way or another. If we take another month or two to do a proper look at a more enhanced package, more progressive package. So I'm going to recommend to you, if you would consider hiring somebody like a Ron Cowdees to draft a master plan. And as I say, that master plan could be almost modular in nature. If you didn't want to take on the whole thing, you could leave it there till 26, 27, but you have a plan to work to. And so obviously I've declared purposely that Ron is a friend of mine, but I have worked with him on many, I say him because he knows Thorndale. If you have other people, that's fine. Whatever the process is to do it properly, but
Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation.
All
Mr.
right.
Ross. Are there any questions or comments from council at this stage? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Bill, for coming in tonight. I just want to say that unfortunately, I didn't attend the King Street open house, but I do want to share that it's nice to see some new and innovative thinking for these projects. Road safety has been a top priority of mine, and it's nice to see different ways to help mitigate speeding and enhance road safety along with the beautification of our areas. So thank you for bringing this forward. I'm not super familiar with the bump outs and how that works. And as you know, our hands are kind of tied as Thames Center with it being a county road. But I just wanted to say that we have an upcoming meeting with the county engineer as well in regards to the summary from our road safety open house that happened this past May. And I'd be happy to bring these suggestions forward there as well. But thank you for that.
appreciate it. Maybe you'll get further with it than I did.
We'll work on it. Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
Thanks again, Bill, for attending the meeting tonight. Interesting that you talk about roundabouts because Middlesex County is doing the first roundabout in Kilworth, Kamoka. So I think that's still, I think, not going to finish entirely for another year or two. So I think the county is trying some of these different strategies. So I'm hopeful that someday soon we'll be able to see more roundabouts within Thames Center, but also Middlesex County. And likewise, I know that when Ilderton Road was reconstructed as well, there was some, I think, bump outs or some kind of innovative solutions too to help with parking and speeding down that road. So I think, I'm not sure when it was that you talked to the engineer about this. It could have been a few years ago. I'm not sure. I think things have moved slowly though, perhaps. But I think we're getting to that point. And like Councillor Crockett had indicated, exciting to see something new and innovative in terms of upgrading our roads. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Council. And Councillor Heeman, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, so I did have the chance to go to that, the PUC meeting, and I think Bill did a good job representing his ideas there as well, and I think they were well received by the group who came out, and there is definitely a desire for more traffic calming measures as part of that King Street urbanization project. And I think it just speaks to the fact that we requested additional traffic calming measures for the area that Bill has identified. I'm encouraged by comments I received from Chris Trainey at the end of the meeting, and I hope that these will be included in the final draft of the engineer's report that we hope to see before the fall gets too far away. But I don't think it would be remiss for us to just endorse these ideas. I think the tree planting is something that we have a standing budget item for tree planting. If we could direct that to work concurrently with the county and project, then I think that would be a good use of both of our resources. And likewise, I recall a certain planning application for just down the road here where we didn't have any street parking available. And I think that, you know, there's applications to both of our communities in terms of traffic calming and beautification. And I'd like to see us endorse the bump outs and try and communicate that to the county, and definitely if we can try and communicate that through our county representatives, I think that would be helpful. But yeah, this has been an ongoing issue. I remember 4 years ago, the previous council passed a downtown revitalization motion, and I think we will all attest that our downtowns look very similar to the way they did 4 years ago currently. So I don't think we have made as much progress on that topic as I'd like to. And if we were to take this opportunity to communicate this as a positive idea that we'd like to see implemented on this project, I think that would be a worthwhile signal to send at this time. So I'd like to make a motion to endorse incorporating bump outs as part of the King Street urbanization project as an enhanced traffic calming measure, and to coordinate our tree planting budget with the construction schedule.
All right, we have a motion from Councillor Heeman, a seconder for that motion. Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Okay, that carries. So at this point then, to Mr. Ross, we will, I would imagine, Madam Clerk, we still need to receive the report for
It can be part
information.
of Councillor Heeman's motion if you wish to
Okay.
receive that. Are you good with that?
All right, okay,
Would you also like to direct us to send this to the county?
yes, that would be a good idea. Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right then. So pulling it all together, all in favor? Okay, that carries. Thanks very much, Bill. Great. So the time is now 6:02, and we're going to adjourn for the Court of Revision.
And sorry, just prior, before we get into there, on the agenda, there is the motion to only appoint 3 members. We are all now we are now present, so we can have up to 5 members on the Court of Revision. So I do have an adjusted recommendation to close the regular meeting at 6:03 p.m. in order to sit as the Court of Revision under the Drainage Act to consider the Wakeham Weir Drain Branches 2025 and the Dorchester Road Drain, and that all members of council be appointed to sit as members, and then you will need to choose a chair.
All right. I did speak to the deputy mayor about chairing this particular meeting unless someone else is burning to do this job. Okay, all right then. So we will be naming Deputy Mayor Michelle Smybert to sit as chair of the Court of Revision.
Great, thank you. Great.
Okay, and a mover in
Give
a
me a
second. Mover in a second. Okay, moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Proceed.
Thank you. And thanks for joining us, Mike. So the first item of Court of Revision is the Wakeham Weir Drain Branches 2025. Just confirming with the clerk that no appeals have been received.
At this time, there were no appeals received.
And I'm just asking anyone in the audience, are there any late appeals that you'd like to bring forward to the attention of council? Seeing none, then we will move on to the engineer to review. Oh, you've already reviewed the engineering, sorry, with us, right? There's no appeals, so that's fine. Any questions from the members then, if there's any questions on the Court of Revision on the report? Nope. You have a proposed resolution? Okay. We'll hear from the clerk on the proposed resolution. Thank you.
Seeing that there were no appeals and no questions, that the Court of Revision, having met on behalf of the Wake and Weir Drain Branches 2025 with no appeals being submitted, adopt the drainage assessment schedule that was submitted as part of the engineer's report dated May 30th, 2025 by Spreet and Associates Limited.
Great, thank you. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Crockett? Councillor Lockie? All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay. So the second item is the Dorchester Road drain. And again, I'm going to confirm with the clerk that no appeals have been received.
No appeals were received by the deadline.
And I'm going to ask the audience members, are there any late appeals that you want to bring forward to council? Okay. So there's no appeals. So are there any members of council that have any questions with respect to the Court of Revision? Councillor Crockett?
Thank you, Chair. I just have a comment, not a question. Don't worry. I just wanted to reiterate from our review of the Dorchester drain, I guess, that as work begins on this, we just want to encourage that all parties are communicated with effectively and are involved in the work to help mitigate the impact in this busy area of town, because we know that there's a lot going on in this area in particular, and just best if we can all get along in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike's nodding his head. That's going to happen. So it's all good. Any other questions? And you have a recommended motion?
I do. That the Court of Revision, having met on behalf of the Dorchester Road drain and with no appeals being submitted, adopt the drainage assessment schedule that was submitted as part of the engineer's report dated April 3rd, 2025 by Spreet and Associates.
Great, thank you. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Heyman, seconder. Councillor Lockie. Get to talk enough. Just kidding. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. So now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the Court of Revision at 6:07 p.m. Councillor Heyman, Councillor Crockett, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mike, for attendance. Have a good night.
Okay, then we will be moving into the public meeting on planning. It's item number 8 on your agenda. So the motion is that council adjourn its regular meeting at 6:07 p.m. and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the July 28th, 2025 regular council agenda. I'm moving in a sec. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is the consent application B14-25, Gravel Rocks, Inc., owner Adam Vervoort, agent, and the property address is 6161 Trafalgar Street. And the overview of the application is being presented by our planner, Aaron Besh. So go ahead, Aaron, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So the purpose of this application is to create 2 agricultural parcels from an existing 80.9 hectare or 200-acre farm located on the south side of Trafalgar Street, just east of Elgin Road. This property is also considered a through lot with frontage along Gore Road to the south. The lands contain woodlands, wetlands, and are intersected by the Noseworthy Drain and a high voltage transmission corridor for hydro. The applicants are requesting what we refer to as a farm split, which is dividing the property into 2 equal parcels of approximately 40 hectares each. The severed lot includes an existing house with frontage onto Trafalgar, along with both agricultural and natural heritage features. The retained lot also includes farmland, woodlands, and provincially significant wetlands, with a small buildable pocket accessed by an existing driveway. The applicants have identified this area as suitable for a future home, while minimizing impact of farmland and the natural environment. The land is designated agricultural, natural area, and protection area under the Thames Center official plan. Portions of the site are also within the primary aggregate area. And the zoning includes agricultural, environmental protection, and wetland zones. This proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement and the county official plan, both of which discourage lot creation in prime agricultural areas unless parcels are of a size appropriate for the type of agricultural uses common in the area and that are sufficiently large enough to maintain flexibility for farming in the future. The county plan and Thames Center official plan both set a minimum farm parcel size of 40 hectares, which this application would meet. So in terms of lot size, staff are satisfied that the proposal preserves agricultural viability, conforms to the applicable policies, and maintains long-term intended land use. So significant portions of the property do fall within natural hazard areas and are regulated by the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority. The relevant policies of the Thames Center OP and Middlesex OP both prohibit development in hazard-prone areas unless the Conservation Authority confirms that it is safe to proceed. So the application, as proposed to council this evening, has been reviewed by the UTRCA. They provided several comments. I did attach them to tonight's agenda, but just to summarize, here are several that it's kind of key to my presentation this evening. The retained lot contains sufficient area outside the identified hazard features to accommodate potential future development. Safe access to the developable area can be provided via the existing driveway. Any future development would be subject to review and approval under the Conservation Authority regulations, and this may include additional technical studies in the future. And no development would be permitted south of the Noseworthy Municipal Drain, as those lands are located within the mapped flood hazard zone. Both parcels, in regards to zoning compliance, both parcels meet the minimum area and lot frontage requirements of the agricultural zone, specifically 40 hectares in area and 150 meters of frontage. The environmental protection EP and wetland W zones remain unchanged, and this will ensure future development is directed away from environmentally sensitive lands. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. The Director of Public Works noted that both the retained and severed lots must have separate access to Trafalgar Street, and that these entrances be at least 1 meter off of the new property line, and this is to be confirmed with a property bar. The drainage superintendent advised that a drainage reassessment would be required. As previously noted, the UTRCA provided comments which are linked or added to this agenda. We also received comment from Hydro One commenting that they do not oppose the severance in principle. However, this is provided that their easement rights are protected and maintained, and that any permanent placement of permanent structures, facilities, or landscaping within the transmission corridor is prohibited without written prior approval from Hydro One. We did receive one comment, or rather question, from the public, and that was about the intent of the severance, but that was responded to by staff. In summary, the proposed severance complies with the PPS, county, and municipal official plans and meets the zoning requirements. It preserves agricultural use and directs future development away from any hazard areas. Any future residential use will be subject to UTRCA approval, ensuring safe and appropriate site planning. That being said, my recommendation this evening is approval of the application subject to the 9 conditions outlined in my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erin. So I'll turn this over. Is anyone in the chambers wanting to speak to this issue? Yes. Do you want to come up and state your name and your address for the record?
Thank you to you, Mayor McMillan. Adam Report. I'm the agent on this application, and address of 706 Cromarty Drive in Dorchester. Thank you very much to Erin for a very comprehensive report there, and for including the information provided by Upper Thames, because it is a pretty critical part of this application. Just a brief history on this property, actually. We did quite a bit of research on it. It's been owned by the Mason family from 1922 to 2015. And originally, when Mr. Mason purchased the property, it was only the east half of the property that was purchased. And then 3 years later, the second 100 acres was purchased. And then, of course, it was merged into the existing 200-acre parcel. So really what we're asking in the application is to go back to the way things were 100 years ago. the more things change, the more they stay the same, I suppose. In a site visit where we walked the property, it actually appears that there was a house located in the proposed building parcel. House that was torn down, of course, probably about 100 years ago, but they apparently got the location right back then as well. And just to follow up on a couple of Aaron's points there, in the planning justification report prepared by Triton Engineering, who I worked with in the past, we did provide a kind of a proposed preliminary rough guesstimate of where a house could be located there. Just very preliminary in nature, but the overall purpose of that was to show that we wouldn't be looking to encroach on agricultural land more than absolutely necessary, staying the 30-meter setback from environmentally sensitive land, but not overstepping on agricultural land, so that we can keep as much in production as possible, consistent with the 2024 PPS. And then just following up on the Conservation Authority's comments, the existing laneways do provide safe access, and the owner and prospective buyer are aware that there may need to be studies done. It's a sensitive area given the current zoning of the property, so eyes fully wide open by all parties involved in the transaction. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment on this?
There's none online, your worship.
Okie dokie. So any questions from the members of council? No, seeing none. There being no further discussion, the public meeting is now closed. So I'll be looking for a decision, a mover and a seconder for the 9 items that are published on the agenda. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Aaron. Oh, you on the next one too? I'm busy tonight. Okay. So, and then we will move on to 8.2, the zoning bylaw amendment application Z18-25, Guildwood Farms, Inc., applicant Matt Lanford, agent, and the property address is 18126 Whiten Drive. Whenever you're ready, Aaron, go ahead.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So this next application before council is zoning bylaw amendment application Z18-2025. The purpose of this application is to rezone the retained farm parcel to prohibit any new residential use as a condition of a previously approved surplus farm dwelling severance. The subject property is approximately 32 hectares. It's located at the northwest corner of Whiten Drive and Cobble Hills Road. The land includes an existing single detached dwelling serviced by private well and septic, as well as several agricultural outbuildings. On May 26th of this year, consent application B525 was conditionally approved to sever a 1-acre parcel that contained the farmhouse and garage. The retained lands, which total 31.6 hectares, include a barn for equipment storage, and these are accessed off of their own entrance on Whiten Drive. As part of that consent, condition 3 requires that the retained farmland be rezoned to prohibit the construction of new residential dwellings. The applicant is therefore proposing to rezone the farm parcel from agricultural A zone to a site-specific agricultural A-45 zone to fulfill that condition. This rezoning is consistent with the provincial planning statement, the Middlesex County official plan, and the Thames Centre official plan, which all support the severance of the surplus farm dwelling severance as per certain criteria. This one including that no new residential dwellings may be permitted on the retained farmland once the surplus house is severed. The A-45 zone, which is the zone that we typically use for this type of rezoning, it fulfills the last requirement by legally prohibiting residential development on the retained lands. It's important to note that the severed residential lot does not require rezoning, as the agricultural A zone already contains provisions for undersized lots created through this type of consent. So overall, I am satisfied that the rezoning is appropriate and necessary. It implements provincial and municipal policy, as well as representing sound land use planning. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act, and no objections or comments were received from agencies or the public. So in summary, I am recommending this evening that application Z1825 be approved and that the corresponding bylaw also be approved, which is included on the bylaw portion of today's agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. Is the applicant or anyone else? Yes, go ahead. Sarah.
Yes, Your Worship. I have the agent, Matt Langford, online. I'll bring him over.
Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Matt, we can see you, so just go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this is just the rezoning portion or condition of the previous severance. So happy to answer any questions, but I think Aaron did a good job of putting the proposal or the information in front of council.
Okay, thanks. I'll just, before we move to council, I'll just check and make sure. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this, Sarah?
There's no one online, Your
or-
Worship.
Okay, so then I will turn this over to the members of council if they have any questions or comments on this planning application. Okay, seeing none, then the public meeting on this portion is now closed. So we have a decision that application for zoning bylaw amendment Z18-25 requested by Guildwood Farms, Inc. for lands legally described as part of Lot 11, Concession 7, Geographic Township of West Missouri, Municipality of Thames Center, and known municipally as 18126 Whiten Drive be approved, and that the implementing bylaw be approved as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thanks very much, Matt and Aaron.
Thank you.
We will now adjourn at 6:22 p.m. That the planning public meetings adjourn at 6:22 and council reconvene its regular meeting. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Lockie and Councillor Heem. Was that your hand up there? All right. All in favor? That carries. Thanks. The next one is the approval of the previous minutes. That the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of council held on June 23rd, 2025 be approved as circulated. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Thanks, that carries. All right, so moving on to the item number 10, the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. Is any, are any of them being pulled by council? Councillor Crockett?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull 10.6, 10.8, and 10.9, if I may.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Your Worship, I would also like to pull 10.3 and 10.7.
Okay. So I guess what we will do then is we will start with 10.3.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make a really quick comment on this this document that was provided regarding Bill 17. I think it's really a good document, but for me, like one of the key takeaways were at the very end when it discusses the implications. And it talks about the funding of growth-related capital needs from non-DC municipal sources, slowing the timing for growth-related projects and increased debt financing, which might create a downward spiral. So I just wanted to bring that to attention just so we can, and keep that in our minds when moving forward on projects.
Alrighty. Okay,
Just go in order.
yes. 10.6.
Perfect. So 10.6 is the road safety open house public feedback report. I just want to thank staff for providing this summary, and to the residents that attended the road safety open house. We have been able to move forward on a few of the suggestions already, and we hope to be able to continue that moving forward. So thanks. That's all on that.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I lost who's doing 10.7? Okay, Councillor Lockett, go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, this would be to Director Craven. I just have a question. So I noticed when we do the oversized waste collection, there's a lot of good items that you see kind of left at the curve. And I know it's wonderful, like a lot of recyclers come and take them, but you see a lot of really good stuff going into landfill. Have we ever thought about partnering up with a charity that might be able to rehome certain items and, reduce what goes in?
Your worship, no, that hasn't been considered, but that's probably not a bad idea. There's a couple charities, like say the Goodwill and whatnot too, that we can speak to see if there's any kind of collaboration that we could have with them, whether they, we let them know when our oversized waste days are, and they can, tell us, I guess, what may be reusable and what won't be. But that's a good idea. I can reach out to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just on that point, if I may, up near where our cottage is, one of the landfill sites actually has like a little store sort of thing where better stuff can be sold to the public. Just throwing that out there. Depends on your better stuff, but in any case. Okay. 10.8.
Thank you. I just wanted, just to close off 10.7, I'd also suggest maybe reaching out to Habitat Restore. There's a London Habitat, I believe, and they do a lot of pickups, to my knowledge, from last time I worked with them. Okay, 10.8, regarding the correspondence, the Playroom Experiment business proposal. I just wanted to state that I appreciate that this ask and the lease extension are being presented separately for consideration, as I believe this capital funding request is quite significant, especially to consider between the time we get the agenda and the Monday night meeting. I still think it's a discussion that we can have at council, but I'm wondering if we could refer this to the 2026 budget process for discussion at this time.
So you're making that as a motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lockie? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, two things. Can we get a report, a staff report on feasibility of the proposal prior to the budgetary consideration? And I know there is some concern about applying for grants and the timeliness of that. So I'm wondering, separate from that proposal, is it possible to work with the Playroom Experiment on endorsing a application for a Trillium grant to potentially reduce the actual ask in advance as well?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the councillor. The agreement that's separate cover in a separate report does speak to staff's ability to work with them in terms of the application of grant funding. So we can do that subject to council approval of that lease extension. We would be doing that anyway. The first part with respect to the feasibility of this request in advance of the budget, I think that's a consultation with Steve, who's here today. But I think our sense is more, we would advance the staff requested through business cases and then have these other requests separately, but also part of the process. And I'm sure then there'd probably some staff analysis put to this, and there's been some others, and there may be some more coming up. But if you would like a separate report based on this, we can. But our sense is infusing it as part of the budget process as a whole may make sense from a staff perspective.
All right.
Pardon? Okay. So all in favor?
Yeah, I just want clarity that it's with the initial motion that was put forward. Okay.
Okay. So then that carries. Okay, thank you. 10.9, the County of Middlesex Draft Official Plan Amendment. Who was speaking to that? I'm
That
sorry.
was me again.
Okay, Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out that this is a significant yet well-considered revision to the Middlesex OP. I really appreciate the inclusion of language that supports the agricultural system protection, as well as recognizing growth and infrastructure needs on the horizon. I also just wanted to note that I believe it's appropriate that Dorchester and Thorndale were reclassified under the urban area designations. I think just to generalize a couple of the questions that I had coming out of this has the version 1 of the Middlesex OP been approved, and subsequently, does this revision have any effects on Thames Center OPs getting approved?
Thanks, through your worship. The version hasn't been approved, but it's been reviewed by PAC and Planning Advisory Committee at the county level with consultation with the lower tiers, and it's been submitted to MMAH, and that way that approves the county to then enter into public consultation prior to finalizing the versions. And it does not affect our OPA 27 official plan review that's under appeal. If anything, I think the county's initiatives to speak to policy on behalf of the locals that are stuck in the appeal stage so that we have more policy to lean on. And that's why they're taking this public consultation and lower tier consultation carefully to make sure it doesn't not align or misalign with our proposed OPs.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, yeah, woo. So I think what we'll do here is that I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder to receive 10.1, 10.2, 10.4, 10.5, a mover and a seconder. Can we do all of them? So I'm sorry. All right, so a mover and a seconder to receive reports of 10, 10.7, 10.1 to 10.7 and 10.9. All right. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. So all in favor? All right, that carries. So now we're going to be moving on to item number 11, reports of departments, and 11.1, Department 2025 second quarter reports. So who is OC? All right. Okay. So any questions on any of those reports that would go from 11.11 down to 11.110? Councillor Crockett.
Sorry, I was just trying to figure out how to go about this. My first question pertains to 11.2. So if anyone has 11.1, they can go first. Oh. Not, sorry, I totally misunderstood that. I don't have any questions.
You know, I'm so easily confused that you're doing a really good job today. Okay, so then what we're going to do then is a mover and a seconder to receive the department quarterly reports for the second quarter of 2025 be received for information. Councillor Lockie and Deputy Mayor Smyberg, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, item number 11.2 is a request to remove the H holding provision from blocks 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8, 8, 11, and 15, Z 17-25 for Hawthorne Park Subdivision Phase 1, Sifton Properties. And Erin, you're presenting this one? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So my final report this evening, again, is in regards to Z 17-2025. We're seeking to remove the holding symbol or the H symbol from Phase 1 of the Hawthorne Park subdivision here in Dorchester. The subject property is approximately 20.8 hectares in size. It's located on the east side of Dorchester Road, south of Byron Avenue. The site is just north of Dorchester Creek, and it forms a part of a larger residential development proposal known as Hawthorne Park. The subdivision application was first submitted in October of 2019. The municipality held 3 public meetings over the course of the application process, and council ultimately supported the proposal with modifications at the September 12th, 2025 or 2022 meeting. As part of that approval process, an official plan amendment was adopted to allow a broader mix of medium density residential uses, retirement homes, and long-term care facility. And a zoning bylaw amendment Z 1919 was approved to rezone the lands to a mix of R1 and R3 zones with additional zones for open space and general commercial uses. So the approved draft plan of subdivision includes 8 blocks for low density residential, 4 blocks for low to medium density residential, 3 blocks for medium density residential, and 2 blocks for mixed use development. There are all additional blocks in relation to open space, stormwater management, roads, etc. However, these are the ones outlined on the location map are the ones that are subject to the hold removal this evening. And we are considering it as phase 1 of this development. As part of the original zoning approval, the holding symbol was applied to ensure orderly development and to confirm that servicing agreements were in place prior to construction. Now that the developer has entered into a subdivision agreement with the municipality, the conditions to lift the holding provision has been fulfilled. I have reviewed the file and we can confirm that the requirements for removing the H have been met. So specific to the blocks outlined in the title of this report, we are recommending approval for the lifting of the holding to allow construction of phase 1 to commence. The application was also circulated. We did not receive any comments or concerns from either internal agencies or the public. So in conclusion, the holding symbol was placed in a manner to control and ensure agreements were in place prior to development occurring. Now that that has occurred, we are recommending that application Z17-25 be approved and that the implementing bylaw be adopted as included in the bylaw portion of today's agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erin. Are there any questions from council on this particular item? Deputy Mayor Smyberg?
Thank you. No problem with removing the holding symbol. Just had a question in terms of development and expected timeline. And do we know which of phase 1, what development is going to proceed first, whether it's the single family or the medium density or mixed density?
Through you, your worship, Aaron, do you want me to take this one? I see your, thanks. Yeah, so we're actually just finalizing a few items like final approval and authorization to commence work, as well as an interim completion certificate prior to servicing. So there's a few items in the subdivision agreement that need to be met first. I haven't had, final confirmation on which phase is to be constructed first, but there are quite a few requirements prior to building permits being issued. I know that the senior living was at their top priority, and that has been communicated by Sifton, but I mean, we're open to see what they're proposing first on building permits once it comes to that time. And as Councillor Crockett mentioned, it is a busy area, so definitely going to keep in mind the traffic and the construction plan that's provided from the subdivision agreement to make sure they're adhering to that, as well as dust suppression, as it has some dry spells here in near Byron Ave where the streets and homes are affected. So hearing the residents loud and clear.
Thanks, Amanda. Is there anything else here? So any other questions from council?
Amanda read my mind, so we're
Oh,
good.
she did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I hope she doesn't read mine. Okay, so do I have a mover for the recommended motion that application for zoning bylaw amendment Z17-25 as requested by Sifton Properties Limited to remove the H holding provisions R1-30-H and R3-13-H for phase 1 of the Hawthorne Park subdivision, as a subdivision agreement has been executed between the developer and the municipality for lands legally described as part of Lot 17, Concession B, SRT, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, and designated as Parts 2 to 4 and Part of 1 on Reference Plan 33R 16963, Municipality of Thames Center be approved, and that the implementing bylaw be introduced in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Mover. Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, so on 11.3, the motion needs to be approved that Thames Center Council hereby rescind resolution 194-2025 adopted on June 23rd, 2025 in order to consider the updated motion in Council Report PDS 041-25. So a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Crockett, all in favor? That carries. So Amanda, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. As mentioned, this report is a revision to request to declare municipal gravel pit as surplus to the needs of the municipality. Thanks, Sarah. She has a location map up on screen that wasn't attached to the report, so just for awareness. So the purpose is the report being brought back to council for further consideration and transparency prior to the issuing notice of sale or obtaining an appraisal, as the lands contain 2 lots being separate roll numbers and parcels, which may be sold separately or together. So again, we're seeking council's direction and endorsement to declare the described lands. And I'll just skip down to it says in the background section. So prior to this, I believe it was only lot 9 that was described in the previous report. And now we're going to bring in lot 10, which brings it to a total of 19.3 acres. So on the west side of the map, I believe, was not included in the previous report. So just for transparency, there are 2 separate parcels, and just wanted to bring it back to make sure that I was describing the lots prior to issuing notice, and just for transparency there. So any questions, I'm here. The recommendation is that report number PDS 041-25 be received for information, and that the lands described in the background section of this report, 3002 Cromarty Drive, Concession 1, SRTS, Part Lot 9 and 10, be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality, and that the proposal and sale of the said lands be subject to bylaw number 65, 2022, being a bylaw to govern the sale of surplus lands, and that an appraisal be undertaken by a qualified professional to determine the fair market value of the lands, and that council reauthorize staff to negotiate a conditional agreement of purchase and sale to be brought back to council for its consideration, and that all applicable costs related to survey and legal work, as well as the sale price of the lands being subject to HST, be at the expense of the purchaser and due at closing, and that the net proceeds of the sale of the subject land be brought forward for consideration during the 2026 budget review process.
Thank you. Any questions from the members of council? None at all? Okay, so do we have a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion? Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That motion carries. Thanks, Amanda. And you're on for the next one, 11.4 PDS 042-25 easement and encroachment agreement, Westchester Burn. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you. And through your worship, and thanks, Sarah, again, a location map attached here wasn't to the report, so I thought I'd add that in for further clarification, so apologies. So the purpose is to provide council with a summary of the proposed easement and encroachment agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Thames Center and Wendy Stockford, the easement holder, to resolve access matters over a portion, which is the hatched area, hatch black area in the location map, being an unopened road allowance, Nile Street, to facilitate legal and physical access to the Stockford property, being the red outlined in the map. So council previously declared a portion of the unopened Nile Street Road allowance as temporary surplus in June 2023, denied purchase request in August 2023, and proceeded with negotiations toward an easement and encroachment agreement. The surplus lands were rescinded in April 2025, prohibiting the sale of the road. However, council confirmed its intention to formalize access through an easement and encroachment agreement with conditions to the property requiring access. Some comments on the analysis and the way through the agreement was that the easement holder does assume full responsibility for maintenance, repair, and liability related to the laneway and gate, which is existing. And that includes also snow removal, landscaping, insurance coverage, naming the municipality as additional insured. The agreement is required to be registered on title and is binding on future owners. This approach balances private access needs with the municipality's duty to protect public land, ensuring legal clarity, liability protection, and long-term oversight. The municipality aims to finalize the agreement by July 31st. There's no financial obligation to the municipality under this agreement, and the easement holder is responsible for 100% of all costs. And the recommendation is to be received for information, and that council approved the easement agreement as appended to the report, and that council directs staff to proceed with execution and registration of the easement and encroachment agreement, and that staff monitor the fulfillment of conditions post-execution of the agreement.
Thank you, Amanda. So, any questions from council? No? Okay, so a mover and a seconder for the recommended Councillor Heeman and a seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jana Nethercott, our Director of Legislative Services and Clerk, regarding municipal election alternate voting method, 11.5 on your agenda.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Council, it is now time to start considering the 2026 municipal election. And as in past years, 2014, 2018, and 2022, I am, along with the other clerks within Middlesex County, suggesting we move forward with alternate voting methods, basically telephone and internet voting, how it's been. Just before I was to turn in these reports, I did get the final costs for if we go forward with IntelliVote, which is the company that the clerks had chose, and we actually are getting a fairly substantive discount this time as we pooled with Elgin and Oxford as well, which helped lower our costs to the lowest possibility, which is really nice. And so this will, the other quote we will have to have is moving on to data fix to maintain our voter view list management services. It was not, most municipalities in Ontario did not maintain that after the last election because of Ontario, the province taking over the voters list. So it's a whole setup all over again. So it's a little higher, but all of these costs should be hopefully within the $60,000 election reserves that we have set aside currently. So I just need the resolution to allow us to continue on with alternative voting and pass the bylaw as per the Municipal Elections Act. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question for the clerk? Mhm. Okay, a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion, Deputy Mayor Smybird and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thanks very much, Jenna. All right, Director of Community Services and Facilities, Steve McDonald, to present item number 11.6, CSF-004-25, Boys and Girls Club Agreement Extension at Flight Exec Center.
Good afternoon, Council. Through you, Your Worship. You have before you report number CSF 004-25 regarding an extension to the agreement with the Boys and Girls Club at the Flight Exec Center. The initial 12-month free trial use of space agreement that Council approved last year expires at the end of next month. This initial agreement also stipulated a requirement for the Boys and Girls Club to submit a progress report, which they presented to Council earlier this year at our May 12th meeting. Today's report provides a proposed extension agreement that Boys and Girls Club has agreed to in principle, pending Council's endorsement. The main factors that were considered when negotiating this extension are outlined in the comments section of the report. I just want to quickly highlight a few of them. The agreement with Boys and Girls Club aligns with 9 recommendations in our Community Service and Facility Master Plan. The Boys and Girls Club's progress report showed low usage of the provided space, averaging 1.5 events per month. Boys and Girls Club receives additional municipal support, including 2 free hours per week in the Flight Exec Gymnasium, free use of space at the Thorndale Lions Community Center, and they received a $5,000 community grant earlier this year. Their progress report also showed that 90% of the events that they hosted or offered at the Flight Exec Center required user fees to help cover their costs. These factors resulted in the attached agreement extension with the following changes from the initial agreement. Those being free use of space for another 2 years, as the Boys and Girls Club have advised that they will need that long before they'd be able to start potentially offering any rent for the space. More importantly, the space would no longer be dedicated just to them. Instead, they would be able to book the space when they need it so that Thames Center can make use of it and rent it out to others when it's available, allowing us for some cost recovery. This space is desirable due to the fact there's a kitchen attached. So when our new spaces with a kitchen are booked, which is quite often, we would now have a secondary space that we can offer to others. Dedicated space for the Boys and Girls Club can be considered again in the future when we go to extend after 2 years. And at that point, we would again look at the metrics from their upcoming progress reports to ensure that there's enough activity going on that would warrant a dedicated space. The extension continues to provide 2 free hours of gym time per week, which was previously provided via the 2024 community grant. And the extension would allow the Boys and Girls Club to lock a limited number of kitchen cupboards for their supplies and equipment so that when we rent it out to other people, things that they don't want other users to have access to, they will not. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director McDonald. Any questions from council on the item? Okay, so do we have a move? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just a quick
Did I
comment.
miss that?
think it applies to the next item too, is that we had it in our strategic plan to work with these groups, and I want to thank Director McDonald for doing that. And, you know, moving towards completion of those strategic objectives.
Anyone else? No? So then in this time, mover and a seconder, that report number LS 009-25 be received for information, and that council consider an implementing bylaw in the bylaw portion of the agenda to confirm the use of internet and telephone. Oh, wait a minute. Gee whiz, I'm sorry. My goodness. Okay. A mover and a seconder that CSF-004-25 be received for information, and that council directs staff to enter into the proposed facility rental agreement extension with the Boys and Girls Club of London. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That motion carries. And you're on for the next one too, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. You have before you report CSF 005-25 regarding an extension to the agreement with the Playroom Experiment. Similar to the Boys and Girls Club, this initial 12-month free trial use of space agreement was approved by Council last year and expires at the end of next month. Likewise, the initial agreement also stipulated the requirement for a progress report, which was presented at our May 12th meeting of Council. This report provides a proposed extension agreement which does not meet all the requests of Mike's business plan, which was under the consent agenda earlier today. The main factors that were considered when reaching this proposed extension are outlined in the comments again. And the key highlights there are that this partnership aligns with 6 recommendations in the Community Service and Facility Master Plan. The progress report from the Playroom Experiment showed a stronger usage rate of the space. They averaged 10 events per month and 57 hours of use per month. And also 2/3 of their events were free to the community. To date, the Playroom Experiment has not requested any additional assistance from the municipality, and instead they have volunteered a great amount of time and materials to establish this program along with community supporters. Beyond the focus invested in the Flight Exec Center space, the Playroom Experiment has also spent a great amount of time and effort establishing themselves in our community through our libraries, local schools, and the Dorchester Terrace. The Playroom Experiment's business plan included earlier in the agenda was submitted after I submitted my report and asks for additional municipal support beyond the agreement extension that I am proposing. The factors outlined in this report resulted in the following key changes to the proposed agreement. It's extending it for another 2 years. It's adding in free use of the mezzanine when available, as this space is seldom used and is a great fit for various activities that the Playroom Experiment has in mind. It's also offering up free use of other Flight Exec Center rooms or space up to 4 days per year for special events or fundraising events. And as we've discussed earlier, the municipality would help apply for grants when feasible. That being said, I believe Mr. Primo is following this meeting remotely and has made himself available should you have any questions for him. And likewise, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me at this point.
Thanks, Director McDonald. Any questions from the members of council about this? Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question in particular, but I do just want to say thank you to Steve and Mike for putting this together. And I think that this report, assumably passing this evening, shows that the municipality is definitely in support of the Playroom Experiment and look forward to assisting them as they grow and move forward over the next 2 years. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? Okay, then a mover and a seconder that report number CSF-25 005-25 be received for information, and that council directs staff to enter into the proposed facility lease agreement extension with the playground, with the Playroom Experiment. A mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That motion carries. Thanks. And you're up again.
I get paid by the report, right?
Do you?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
You have before you report CSF 006-25 regarding a proposed agreement with the Oxford Renaissance Festival to continue to hold their annual event in Thorndale. Last year was the first time this event was held at our Thorndale property, with everything going relatively smoothly for an event of such large magnitude. Key details of the proposed agreement are outlined in the comments section of the report and include a 5-year term with opt-out options for both parties, an increase and adjustment in the annual rental fees phased in over the first 2 years, followed by annual consumer price index adjustments for the next 3 years at 4%. This would result in more than double the price for this year and almost 4 times the 2024 price by the 5th year of the term. This will provide Thames Centre with a solid cost recovery rate and consistency with our published rates and fees. The agreement also has detailed insurance requirements, covers off details regarding various bylaws and permits that would pertain to this event, which includes refreshment vehicles, open air burning, sign bylaw, noise bylaw, building permits for tents over a certain size. This agreement also covers off the requirement of a municipally significant event application, should they choose to do so, traffic and pedestrian safety related requirements, as well as security requirements. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you again. Any questions from council? Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, through your worship. Is the organizer of the festival going to be in agreement with this?
Sorry, yes, I should have said that. Yes, so they've already agreed to this in principle. Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else from the members of council? No? Okay, in that point, do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion that report number CSF-006-25 be received for information and that council approve the recommended rental agreement with the Oxford Renaissance Festival and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the rental agreement substantially in the form of the attached agreement as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you. And if you're getting paid by the report, there's another one. You're
Yep.
in the chips tonight,
Yep,
Steve.
My kids are getting peanut butter on their bread tonight. So
Okie
Thank you.
dokie. Go ahead.
with their warm tap water. You have before you report CSF 007-25 regarding a request to proceed with unbudgeted repairs to a growing leak issue at the Flight Exec Center. The root cause has recently been determined. Deterioration of the roof gutter, which connects the original building to the portion of the building that includes the second ice pad, has been caused over time by corrosion. As much of the inside repairs, that mainly being insulation, drywall, ceiling tiles, and paint, will be handled by staff to minimize costs. Our Director of Corporate Services recommends we cover this expense from a portion of the Community Service Capital Reserves, which sat at 1.65 million at the end of 2024. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions from council? I don't see any. Oh, Councillor Lockie?
Sorry, I may have missed this. Did you receive, how many quotes did we get on this repair?
We approached 3 companies for the repair.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, then we'll move that report number CSF-007-25 be received for information and that council direct staff to proceed with repairs to the Flight Exec Center roof and the interior damage caused by this roof leak using a portion of the Community Services Capital Reserve to a maximum of $30,000 before HST as outlined within this report. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyberg. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. So we're going to give somebody else a chance here tonight. So Director of Financial Services and Treasurer. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councilors. I'm presenting to you the report on the long-term debt policy. This is the first report. And in this report, we are looking to establish a policy framework which aligns the municipality with the Municipal Act, the Ontario regulation, and our accounting standards. In essence, you have three types of debt. One is the traditional debt where, for example, you built your Thorndale Fire Hall, you issued debt and from an external source, and now through a debenture, we're paying back the debt, and that impacts our annual repayment limit. The other two debts that we have is when we're borrowing from ourselves. So one example is that we pay a contractor to build a drain. We borrow that money from ourselves to pay that contract to construct that drain, and then we receive funds from property owners. So that debt is being paid back. The second type of debt is when we are purchasing a capital project like Eva Ida, the property. So we borrow from ourselves, from our reserve accounts, and then we pay ourselves back over the years. So these are three types of debts. We've organized it into a policy format, and therefore what we are able to do is, as a treasurer, report back to council when you do your budget deliberations, you have a good sense of information of where we're at with all three types of debt. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
I'm not used to such a short report here.
Okay.
But, okay, then, any questions from council? Okay. All right, then, so a mover and a seconder that report number CS-009-25 be received for information, and that council approve the attached policy CPI 1.1.7 entitled Long-Term Debt and Financial Obligations. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thanks very much. All right, and you're up. Are you getting paid by the report too?
I didn't know that was
Gee
the
whiz.
compensation method, but follow Stephen's lead.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
I'll put a financial policy together. The second report I'm presenting is relative to the wastewater services surplus. If you recall, I presented the unaudited financial statement to the municipality. There were some surpluses in our operations and our rate programs. In the rate programs, there is a wastewater surplus, and it was a direction of council to look at options. So our original recommendation was to put it into reserves. But following council direction, we created an option. So what I did was I created a spectrum of one end of putting it all in reserves. The second, at the other end of the spectrum, rebating it fully back to those who pay for the wastewater rates. And then we talked about a hybrid option, something in between those two ends of the spectrum. So that's what you have before you. Option one, where it's put it all in reserves. Option two, which is fully rebate back wastewater ratepayers, or option three, which is a hybrid model where you're, we picked a number of $100 per ratepayer, but it could be for those who are connected to the wastewater, I should clarify, and those who pay a base charge but are not connected to the wastewater, those type of ratepayers. And then option three is the hybrid model at $100. So those are your options, and we're looking for direction on which option we're selecting.
Okay, Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, thank you through your worship. Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo, for this excellent report. And I'd just like to speak to the report. So it is a fact that our wastewater rates are amongst the highest in the surrounding areas, and this is frustrating for a lot of families. Also a fact that, as he mentioned, last year we had a $549,000 surplus, and this actually doesn't include the interest on that surplus either. So that's another $58,000 that would be allocated. Furthermore, so our reserve is $2.3 million. So this is $1.6 million higher than what was recommended by Watson. So clearly we're in a position where we can give the ratepayers a little bit of relief. Now, I don't want to create a make work project. And I also recognize that it's important that we save for the future. So this is why I would support the recommendation to have a one-time rebate of $120 per account. So that $120 would represent the base rate of $60 for 2 cycles. That would be about $163,000. So that would still put over $400,000 back into the reserve. Now, I'm an accountant for a living, and I've done my own 10-year projection using my spreadsheet, and I'm very comfortable with this. And I know that it could be argued that we need to set money aside for growth, but growth needs to pay for growth, not the wastewater users. So I'm hoping that council will consider voting to support the wastewater users.
Thank you, Councillor Lockie. Deputy Mayor Smybury.
Thank you. So I am of the opinion that these monies should go into reserves. We have a multi-year plan that we paid Watson to do for us. It goes out to 2029. I can see why we've got a surplus in 2024 and maybe 2023 because there weren't a lot of projects that were forecasted in that plan. In 2026, we're looking at close to $8 million in capital works. And I know that the study talks about different sources of financing, right, for those projects. Because we've had really slow development, we can't always count on development charges. We don't know, we're not in control of any provincial grants that might come our way to be able to offset some of these costs. And I think we need to stick to the plan. I think if we deviate from the plan, my concern is it might cost the ratepayers more when we do our next plan because we didn't allocate that money properly and keep it in reserves. So my opinion is we paid for a plan, let's stay on course. And those unknown factors. I mean, these are the projects that we know for sure. There could be other, emergency projects or something like that we don't know about. I would rather make sure that we are keeping the money that's raised through these rates and keep it in the reserves so that we have access to those monies when we need to spend it.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Smybury. Any other comments from the members of council? Councillor Crockett.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, I appreciate the gesture and understand where you're coming from, Councillor Lockie. I believe I'm in line with putting the monies into reserves as well. I'm hesitant to support a rebate for a few reasons that have already been brought up this evening, but certainly that it might be setting a concerning precedent that if there's any surplus anywhere, that a rebate could be possible. And I think that's just opening up doors that we don't want to right now, especially knowing that we have significant infrastructure likely to come forward in the future. And I think it was mentioned earlier that we don't want this to kind of be a piecemeal piece. We're trying to look at Thames Center more holistically in projects moving forward. And these funds being moved to reserve strategically support our long-term municipal resilience and future planning. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crockett. Any other comments on this matter? Councillor Heyman?
Thank you. Um, I think this is I think this issue isn't going to go away because yes, we have slower development. We're also looking at changes to development fees. And yes, we have a surplus. So I think when we looked at the formula for how we got here with successive years of 20% and 20%, and then pumping the brakes and slowing down those increases, which was against the original plan. And I think when we have the last two plans have indicated that we are doing well, I think that we are getting to a more calibrated equilibrium in terms of this account. What I do find worrying is how this account tends to be used to cash flow or for cash flow upfront infrastructure. And I think that that is important because we don't have any other way of doing it. Right, that's how it's set up right now. And I don't think that's fair to our users. But that is the reality of the situation as it is now. And here's hoping that the provincial government understands that this model doesn't work for getting new homes built, and it doesn't work for our residents. So I think that I would be in support of Councillor Lockey's motion because I think we need to show our residents that we do hear them. And I think we need to listen to the plans that we've been given. We have a number of plans, and I think that yes, we have long-term commitments, but those also have different mechanisms of allocating or of different revenue tools to achieve those goals. And I think that we have well and above of what we were recommended to have at this point in time. And I think this is probably not the end of this discussion, but I think it's part of a larger discourse on how these projects are funded, and that's happening at the provincial level. And this is our little piece of that right now. So I'd be in support of Councillor Lockey's motion because I think that we need to demonstrate to our residents that we hear them and that we're going to try things differently.
Anything else from council? Deputy Mayor Smyber?
Just if I could, can the director please go through the different options? Because I think when you read them, I don't think it correlated to what was in the report. So I just want to be crystal clear on. Yep.
My apologies, Deputy Mayor, just trying to find my report.
Yeah, I would, but yeah, sorry, through your worship, I just would like to call out that there are suggestions, and so I had put forth a fourth suggestion, which was not on the report, but it's very similar to option 2.
Okay, Danielle, I just wanted to clarify.
Through Mayor to Deputy Mayor to clarify the options. Option 1, and I did misspeak on the options. Option 1 is full rebate. So option 1 is you take the total surplus and you provide a full rebate back to the ratepayers for the wastewater. Option 2 is you put the full surplus amount back all into the wastewater capital reserve. And option 3 is a hybrid where we put in a report $100. Councillor Lockey has amended that to $120. So option 3 would be $120 of based on the 2 year of a base rate And then the remainder after that rebate goes into the wastewater capital reserve.
And Councillor Lockie, you mentioned a fourth.
No, so I would like to make the motion for the, to implement the amended option 3 of $120.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Heeman? All in favor? Not in favor. Okay, we have a split vote. I see the rationale, but two things enter my mind. And one is that I am concerned about opening kind of, for lack of a better word, the Pandora's box, so that in other cases, in other reserve amounts, that maybe that might be the request. Also, we've had a delegation here tonight. And I really feel that we do have aging infrastructure in this municipality, and we don't know how many Oakwood Drives or whatever will be down the road. And I'm also considering the amount of staff time, and perhaps the director can tell me if we were to go down this road of $120 rebate, can that be programmed in where you don't have to open up every file and put in the 120? Can it be across the board? I'm also looking at the, not only the aspects of the finances, but sort of the time allotment from our staff.
Through you, Mayor, to answer your questions, I did deliberate with Sherry Ridsdale, who is our accounts receivable and coordinates our water bills. And that's why we went to a base rate for those who paid a base rate, and we didn't go to a consumption formula, because that would have been complex math and very time consuming. So that's why we proposed to follow council's direction on some type of rebate. That's why we went to a standard rate. We would have to open up 1,500 bills and input it, each of those. And then we thought about how would we do that, and we would have 3 staff do it for not this billing cycle, but next billing cycle of 500 bills each. So to answer your question, yes, we would have to go into each water bill and put in the rebate.
I'm going to vote against the motion. So that means, any other comments?
So I still think staff needs direction, right, in terms of the money. So I'm going to move that we choose option 2 to put the monies into reserves.
Okay, so that's your motion then, a seconder for that motion. Councillor Crockett, all in favor? Okay, so we have 3, so the motion carries. Okay, so we will be going then with option number 2. Yes, option number 2. Okay, so that full reserves. I'm sorry, Councillor Heeman, did I see your hand up?
Not to put too fine a point on it, but I just think that it should be stated that, you know, by capturing the interest rates that haven't been done before, that would have provided the savings that would have paid for that. So I think that we should just recognize that that is a good allocation to our
You're
users.
talking $120, are you? So, or what do you-
No, I'm just saying that adding the interest rates, whether that particular issue aside, I think that there is going to be a healthier reserve because of recognizing those interest rates, and that's something that can affect the fee structure in future. So.
So you've got that, Jonathan, okay. All right. We then move on to item number 12.1, accessibility and inclusivity advice. No, I'm sorry. 11.12. Sorry, I'm sorry, financial report. We've already done that though, have we not? All right, so you're back on. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this is our quarterly, first and second quarterly report. The benefits of providing this internally, I submitted this report to all our department heads as they prepare for their 2026 structure and as they're inputting it, so they have a framework of not only where they're at and how they're trending for 2025, but put some thoughts of how they're trending in preparation of the 2026 budget. And I put it before you, there are nuances, so we haven't received all our revenues in, and you can see that the variances, whether it's government grants or user fees revenue that's coming in. And you also see like areas like in recreational services where a bulk of their programming is in the third quarter, July and August. So they'll see a lot more expenditures. So, but this does give us a good framework of how we're trending, what our variances are, in order to get ready for budget deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council or comments? None? Okay, then. A mover and a seconder that report number CS-011-25 be received for information. Nobody moving now? Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Okay, moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Reports of committees. Item number 12 on the agenda. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So mover and a seconder for the recommended motion that committee, the reports of committees, item 11.1 be approved as presented. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. 12.1 was the issue, and then I have no report for this month. Any unfinished business? Seeing none. On a notice of motion then from Councillor Heeman, which has already been dealt with, and the second one is the allocation of out-of-boundary student access to busing services. So Tom, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, so I think I'll keep it brief, but the district students, they're allowed to opt into another sorry. If they opt into a non-district school, they have to wait until Thanksgiving to get their bus route approval. So we'd request that they could accelerate this because presumably they know whether a bus is has capacity or not. I think, a time frame shorter than a month. So that's the basis of the request.
Thank you. Discussion?
Sorry, no, just to clarify, because I talked to Councilman before, because I had got the impression that maybe it was a new bus route or something, but I guess this is something typically that happens every year, and normally our council would elevate this and hopefully a decision's made earlier than October, which makes sense. I support it. Thank you.
Okay, so are you seconding that motion?
Yes, I will.
Okay, okay. All in favor? And so none opposed, so that carries. New business, the SCORE EDC appointment request. So any additional information that council needs before we move on to this one? Deputy Mayor Smyber?
No, I just a comment that it just seems appropriate to appoint yourself to this board, seeing that you were once on it as Middlesex County Rep. So I would happily move that we appoint yourself to the SCORE Board of Directors.
Okay, thank you. And I accept that. And that we are allowed up to 2. So anyone else who is interested? No? Seriously? Who knew? You're interested, Deputy Mayor? Okay, so any other discussion on that? So the appointees would be myself and the Deputy Mayor? Okay, if there's no other discussion, are we ready to vote on this? Okay.
I'll second it.
Tom is going to second that. So that Thames Center Council appoint Sharon McMillan and Michelle Smyber as members of the South Central Ontario Regional SCORE Economic Development Board of Directors. All in favor? None opposed, so that carries. Thank you. Moving into bylaws, a mover and a seconder for the recommended motion that bylaws 59-2025 through 63-2025 be read a first, second, and third and final time and be adopted.
Mayor McMillan, we need to read bylaw 17, item number 17.3 separately due to the conflict of Councillor Heeman. So it would be that bylaws 59, 2025 through 60, 2025, and then bylaws 62, 2025 and 63, 2025.
Okay, so we will revise that then. So it would be bylaws 592025, bylaw 602025, bylaw 622025, and bylaw 632025. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. Okay.
Then there will be an additional resolution that bylaw number 61-2025 be read a first, second, and third and final time.
A mover and a seconder, Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Okay. And again? No, we do that differently at council. Okay. All righty. So council will now be moving into closed session for which there will be no live streaming. The live streaming will resume once the closed session portion has been completed. And before we just do that, I'd like to just announce for anyone watching that the next meeting schedule is Monday, August the 25th, but that will be on an as-needed basis. It will be followed then by a regularly scheduled meeting for Monday, September the 8th, again at 5 p.m., and Monday, September the 22nd. So we were moving into closed session at 7:33. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break. Why not you?
So on behalf of Mayor McMillan, I'm going to reporting out that in closed session, council considered 3 separate closed session items and provided direction to staff regarding items related to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, and a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. And then there was one motion out of closed session that council appoint the following representatives to the Active Living Center Advisory Committee, being Helen Bendel, Barb Hunter, Mike Murray, Catherine Suffoletta, and Penny Wern, and that the terms of reference, and that a bylaw be brought forward at an upcoming council meeting to finalize these appointments, and that the terms of reference for the Active Living Center Committee be amended to include a maximum of 9 voting members.
Right. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? All right. A confirmatory bylaw. Confirmatory bylaw being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution of the municipality of Thames Centre. A mover and a seconder that bylaw 64-2025 being the confirmatory bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally adopted. A mover and seconder, Councillor Lockie and Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. And a motion for adjournment at 8:10. Councillor Heeman and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.